Since the early 20th century, the Middle East has been the scene of intense conflicts. With the creation of the State of Israel in 1948 and the consequent displacement of thousands of Palestinians, tensions between the Arab world and Israel grew exponentially. Iran, a Persian and Shiite nation, initially maintained diplomatic relations with Israel. However, with the Islamic Revolution of 1979, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, this relationship changed radically. The new theocratic regime viewed Israel as a cancerous tumor and began actively supporting armed groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon and later Hamas in the Gaza Strip. This aggressive foreign policy was both an ideological and a geopolitical strategy. Iran wanted to become the leader of the Muslim world and destabilize the influence of the United States and Israel in the region. In the following decades, Iran was repeatedly accused of developing nuclear weapons. Israel, fearing a second Holocaust, made containment of Iran a strategic objective. The rivalry, fueled by fiery speeches, attacks, targeted assassinations, and cyber warfare, reached a critical point in the 2020s. With the collapse of nuclear agreements and the rise of more extremist leaders such as Ibrahim Raisi and Benjamin Netanyahu, the risk of a direct confrontation became real. In 2023 and 2024, skirmishes between Iranian-backed militias and Israeli forces intensified. Iran's direct attack on Israeli territory in response to the killing of Revolutionary Guard generals marked a turning point. Israel retaliated forcefully. The world was shocked. The war had truly begun. This war was not just military. It was symbolic, ideological, and psychological. On one side, Iran, as the representative of historical resentment and resistance to Western imperialism. On the other, Israel, the symbol of Jewish survival, technology, and deterrence. But to understand how it all came to this, we need to go back even further in time. Iran, known as Persia for millennia, is the heir to one of the most powerful empires in history. Yet in the 20th century, it found itself humiliated by Western powers, exploited by multinationals, and ruled by corrupt leaders backed by the United States. This memory of domination fueled a deep distrust of the West and of its allies, such as Israel. When Khomeini took power in 1979, he not only banned the monarchy, but also declared war on the world order. Anti-Israel rhetoric served as ideological glue for a regime that needed to unite Shiites under a common banner. The Iranian people, their pride wounded, accepted the sacrifice in the name of a new mission: resistance at any cost. Israel, for its part, has been fighting for its survival since the day of its founding. Surrounded by enemies, the small country has developed one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world. But it also lives in a constant state of alert. Every attack, every threat, every anti-Israel protest echoes like a collective trauma call. It's not just about politics, it's about emotional survival. The U.S., as a key player in this game, has ratcheted up the tension by unconditionally supporting Israel and imposing increasingly harsh sanctions on Iran. This has turned the rivalry into a dangerous game of provocation. The trigger for war came when a secret Israeli base in Iraq was attacked by Iranian drones. The Israeli response was immediate and brutal. Since then, conflicts have spread throughout the region: Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. Every day brings a new threat, a new escalation, a new victim. This war is the result of decades of fear, pride, ideology, and bloodshed, and we still don't know how or if it will end. The mind behind the war. Psychological analysis of conflict. The conflict between Iran and Israel is, at its core, more than geopolitical. It is a psychological battle between unresolved national traumas. On one side, Israel carries the burden of the Holocaust, the fear of annihilation, the constant need for self-defense. Every missile fired at its territory reactivates ancient wounds. On the other, Iran carries the memory of lost empires, colonial interference, humiliation at the hands of the West. The 1979 revolution was, psychologically, an attempt to recover its identity, a collective cry of wounded pride. By positioning Israel as the enemy, the regime projected its internal anger outward, diverting attention from its repression of its own people. Both countries live in survivalist mindsets. Trauma shapes their decisions. Israel has developed a fortress mentality, the belief that the world is always on the verge of destroying it. Iran, on the other hand, suffers from the martyr complex, the idea that it must endure suffering in order to fulfill a spiritual destiny. These dynamics intensify in times of war. Leaders become symbols of deep archetypes, the paranoid protector, the radical messiah. The people become emotional pawns. Fear is politicized. Revenge is romanticized. And while the world watches the fighting with cold, analytical eyes, within the borders of both countries, a psychological breakdown is being ignored. In Israel, young people grow up with the sound of sirens, bomb shelters, and a constant sense that tomorrow may not come. In Iran, entire generations have never known freedom of speech, but they know that dying for the cause is considered noble, even if that cause keeps them in misery. The leaders understand the power of trauma. Netanyahu presents himself as the implacable protector, Raisi as the chosen martyr. This theatricalization of fear is fuel for power. It is easier to control a population with fear than with hope, but there are cracks. Israeli psychologists report an increase in anxiety disorders and depression among young soldiers. In Iran, the number of silent suicides among students who see no future is increasing. The psychological war is not just in the skies or on the internet. It is in schools, in hospitals, in the silent homes that mourn their children. This analysis does not justify the terror. It exposes it. Beyond the inflammatory speeches, there is a human drama being played out, a drama that involves not only missiles and tanks, but broken dreams, desperate mothers, and identities forged in fear. In the end, the question that remains is not who will win the war. It is, who will be left whole after it? Because when collective trauma becomes the only language of a people, the real enemy is not outside. It lives within.